Today's message, truly satisfying and free. Free. You've heard this commercial probably. Free. And I could go on, but then you would strangle me when I come down. Isaiah tells us of something that's truly free. He begins in the first few verses telling his audience, come and buy milk and honey. Buy these things. You don't need money. It's free. Free. It's free. And there is no catch. The satisfaction that comes from the feast in God, it's free and truly satisfying. He says, why do you seek after and buy things that are not truly satisfying? Is this true in our lives today? Do we ever seek after things that aren't truly satisfying? Things that won't really satisfy deep down real needs? Yeah, of course, right? We all fall to that. If you're anything like me, guys, you always like a new gadget or something, right? Something fun. But we all have our things that we like. I'm actually going to turn a little bit further away from what I thought this was going to go today. From the analogy of the feast that Isaiah gives us here, where we come into God's presence and we are so nourished and satisfied by God's presence. I'm going to turn away from that theme a little bit because there's so much content in verses 1 through 9. And I'm going to speak a little bit more specifically to this section where he says to Israel that you're going to be a part of calling the other nations. You're going to be a part of the messenger. You're going to be a part of the message. Isaiah reminds Israel that even in the midst of their circumstances, you remember what they are? I've gone to Isaiah over the past year a couple of times. Where are they and what are they doing and what are the circumstances by which he's writing these things? Most likely under Babylonian captivity. Exiled from Jerusalem. Jerusalem in ruins. Their identity in ruins. Identity crisis. Have you ever been there in identity crisis or turmoil or in a place of absolute desperate need of respite for your soul? I really truly struggle to find the right word to describe God's satisfaction for that thing, that condition of the soul. I've looked and I can't really find the vocabulary. I heard one person over this past year describe it in this way with Isaiah, trying to describe the feast analogy that he uses in describing God's satisfaction as scrumptious. Joyce, you may remember that. I believe it was at a classis meeting, and it may have been Steve Miller that could have shared it right here in this pulpit. I'm not sure. He may have said that here. Describing God's satisfaction as scrumptious. And I came across this word as I looked through this. I feel like Sylvester the cat right now. The thesaurus. With my new mouth going on here. As I look through the thesaurus, I'm never going to say that word again. Just, put that off a couple of years until I get the phrases out. I came across the word scrumptious, and it did seem to fit. And yet, there's still something deeper for me. Have you ever had an experience like this? I went away to college, and I was some 600 miles away from home, totally separated and cut off. My parents didn't have a phone. before the days of cell phone for sure, and even the landline was out of the question for them. And I couldn't talk to all those folks that I was so connected to. And I had become so cut off that I was desperate to get back home, to reconnect with the identity that I had left, where I was admired and appreciated in ministry, and now I was at a new place where everything I did was called into question. Was I genuine? Was I real? Was I actually a servant of God? Was I truly called to preach the gospel? And could I be a good student? And I remember getting home to that first home-cooked meal. And the ease, the comfort, the satisfaction, it was more than scrumptious. It did something deep in my soul. It restored me to being my Father's son. It restored me to being the minister that I knew God had me be. And so now I'm going to deviate a bit from those thoughts of the feast and the scrumptiousness of God. I could not help shape this story, and it's a little bit different, and I just have to go here. You know my sermons are always different Sunday to Sunday. I mean, they might have a central kind of way about them, but I always have a curveball somewhere. And here's a story for you. For those that don't like stories, I'm sorry. Deal with it. Here we go. Catch something from this if you can. I'm going to relate you this story to an EMT. You know, sometimes we get ourselves into trouble. We do some stupid thing. Thank God that there's somebody out there that can be called to rescue us in those stupid scenarios. Has anyone here ever had an EMT, EMS, first responder, come to your rescue in any way? A bunch of you. You know how useful and amazing that is. They didn't show up and say, "Do you have any money?" They jumped into action. And they don't even judge the stupid things that we do to get ourselves in those things. Although we have to stop doing those stupid things, by the way. But here's the story that I came across. It's going to help us relate to this story in Isaiah. Mark my words. There's going to be that one call. That one call is going to change your life. It's going to change how you see the world. If you can even walk away from it to begin with, consider it your rite of passage. An EMT paramedic instructor said to his student, "Have you ever said that to anyone as you train them? You're going to have something that's going to change your life." And we jump into the middle of the story here. "I'm scared," she said. Scared was an understatement. The woman looked downright terrified. "I'm scared too." The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. This is an EMT. I cursed myself. We weren't supposed to let them see our emotions. That was rule number one of working on the ambulance rig. It didn't matter if you were angry or terrified. You had to keep it together for your patients. My hands were trembling as I tightened the tourniquet around her left leg. Her dialysis port was squirting thick, dark arterial blood from her thigh. "I don't want to die," the woman said faintly, dropping her gaze to her leg. "Please don't let me die." I waited for her to look into my eyes again, partly because I didn't want her to see that I, my partner, and the entire floor of the bus were now covered in blood. A few minutes earlier, she had left a dialysis center and stepped onto a city bus. Her dialysis port caught on one of the seats and ripped out of her leg, cutting into her femoral artery and spraying blood everywhere. The driver had spotted my partner and me. We work as EMTs at the hospital where the dialysis center is located and happen to be nearby. And we followed him back to the bus, armed with nothing but a few gauze pads. We didn't have the code to open the door to the dialysis center. As EMTs, we We had only the code for the ER on the other side of the building, which might as well have been 10 miles away. If we couldn't get her there, she was going to die. Hey, I said, hey, look at me, I said. You must be terrified, I said, but I will not let you die. Not here, not now. She slowly nodded her head, tears streaming down her face. The blood dripped down the steps of the bus and onto the street, melting the snow where it fell. You could almost taste the iron in the air. My boots and uniform were covered in blood. As the woman slowly faded into unconsciousness, my partner intubated her. My hands were now covered in blood. They felt slippery, and my upper arms were beginning to get sticky as it started to freeze. The bleeding hadn't stopped. I tightened the tourniquet. Now 7 months earlier. Now twist. There you go. Rodericker, you got it. I was the last person in line to use the commercial tourniquet. We were halfway through an EMT class that ran from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., a 12-hour shift designed to simulate being on the job. That's one thing I value about my college EMT program. They kept things realistic. The first day of class, our instructor had shown us gruesome videos of a car accident. He showed us videos of people assaulting EMTs and paramedics. He told us exactly how much we would be making. Minimum wage for the average EMT, $12 an hour for paramedics if they were lucky. We lost 8 students that day. Now I'm going to tell you this, he said about the tourniquet. The first time you have to use one of these will haunt you for the rest of your life. If someone is bleeding that much, the odds are not good for them. Now back to the story. We have to get her to the ER, I said to my partner, now. We need backup, I said. I think it's time to call X. Call X? Are you sure? Calling X over the radio meant things were heading south fast. The last time X had been called was when an ambulance crew had gotten into a car accident and both EMTs were in critical condition. The time before that, the crew was being held at gunpoint. Is this a thing by calling X? Have you heard this?
We don't use X, we get help right away.
So as I read the story, it's literally, in quotes, calling X. Calling X would broadcast our location to every officer, firefighter, EMS agency in the area. Help would arrive within seconds. At least that's what we had hoped. There weren't that many cops or firefighters around. I reached for my mic. Bravo, 011. I said X. The story continues to recount the EMT's training, a massive amount of bleeding, and the life-saving action that was taken, which I don't have time to give all of to you. But I will say that she left the hospital with 6 broken ribs, a broken sternum, and a new dialysis port. It had been a long time, he says, since I had cried out, but as she wrapped us in her arms, tears of relief streamed down my face. It was at that moment that I knew I could walk away from my one call. My instructor was right. It had changed my life. Now, it may seem a stretch to compare Isaiah's words with an EMT rescue story. After all, Christ, Isaiah is comparing God's work with a feast and the healing and wholeness that comes. But let me point out that in the context of Isaiah's words is Christ. Within the 2 chapters before, we see glimpses of who Christ is, coming to the rescue and to actually bring about the salvation of Israel. Think about his words in context. Israel struggling to stay alive, both corporately and individually. They were in desperate need of an EMT in Babylonian captivity. And though Isaiah does not address an emergency medical situation, he addressed an emergency spiritual situation with the analogy that we can all understand: food. And more than food, almost like mom's home-cooked meal. And don't get me wrong, it's God who truly provides the feast for our souls. But we get to be a part. Just like God was speaking through Isaiah, telling them that they were going to call the nations to himself, we are called. We get to be a part, not just participators in the feast. We get to help others get to the table of this life-saving and truly satisfying place, and it's all for free. Free, free. Free, 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 free. God continues to prepare us, even right now, to tell a story about blood. It's a bloody story. It may turn some people away, but this is one bloody story that we can allow, since its effect is not just for our body, and it is, but also for our souls. Do you sense, church, do you sense that God is preparing us in a way for something bigger than what we have experienced in the past? That there is a movement towards a welcoming and opening, a message that is proclaimed broader than we have proclaimed it before. We may not necessarily be the EMT. We can see that Jesus is. And I don't know how far to push the analogy, but maybe we're a siren today. Maybe we have a part in preparing the feast or getting someone there, getting them to the soul-saving care that they need, that Christ gives. Let me give you about 4 closing statements. God continues to prepare us, even right now, to turn the siren on. Let's not make the mistake of not trusting that there is urgency. If someone else around is sounding the alarm, we should be careful not to try to muffle it. God continues to prepare us right now, as I just said, to tell the story about blood. It's a bloody story about Jesus dying and shedding his blood. And there we too, like the EMT, find ourselves covered in it, if we're fortunate enough. Lord, cover us with your blood. And let it affect not just our body, but our souls. And God continues to prepare us even right now to call out over the radio of prayer. Bravo, 011, X, where X, of course, is Christ. We have to call on the name of Christ and call others to that name. And God continues to prepare us even right now to recognize that we too need to be made whole, to be made right. Wholeness is a study that we could go to for a very long time. What does it mean to be made whole? That's what Christ wants to do as he brings us in. We need to be careful to not think that we are not in need of treatment. Christ is our EMT. I'm going to go jump back into that story. Hey, I said, hey, look at me. You must be terrified. You must be terrified. But I will not let you die. Not here. Not now. Those are words that Christ could say to all of us, to our community today. God wants to treat us all and to tell others of his truly satisfying feast for the soul. And that it's all truly free for all. Free. Free, 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 free. Could I read you Isaiah again? 55, 1 through 9. Hear these words from the Lord. Ho, which is like come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. And you that have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourself in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Listen so that you may live. I will make with you an everlasting covenant, my steadfast sure love for David. See, I made him a witness for the people, a leader and commander for the peoples. See, you shall call nations that you do not know, and nations that you do not know, you shall run to you. Because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake their way, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them return to the Lord, that he may have mercy on them, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. There's so much to this scripture. I'm only in 7, and you can see that there's a whole other section about returning, repenting, that we don't have time to address. He says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Amen.